Hey guys, so today you will actually not be needing a calculator. You will have this handout here. You're going to have to keep it in handy or right there next to you. That way you're able to go back and forth. We're going to be translating words and phrases into math symbols. We're going to be creating equations or expressions, actually. We're still with expressions. We're going to be creating expressions out of words, out of sentences. Okay. So let's start off. First things first, this is going to be page 10 in your notes. And I will be able to put this side by side with the other set of notes that you're supposed to get. Okay. These are the most common phrases and stuff that you'll see on the STAR test that refer to addition, subtracting, subtraction, multiplication, division, equals. But there are a few phrases that you guys have not been exposed to yet, and they are just slightly confusing on learning how to use them. But once you get the hang of it, it'll be all good. Okay. For addition, most of the time, popular, I'm going to go ahead and highlight all the popular words that are being used for addition and for the regular operators. Most of the time you will see altogether, combine. Remember, we've already been using combine. We used it for combining like terms. More than is actually going to be a special phrase, and we're going to talk about that here at the end of this set of notes or this handout. Okay, for subtraction, a lot of the times, most of the time, you're going to be seeing difference, decrease, reduce when we reduce fractions. Multiplication, they don't say times, okay? They'll say things like double. What does double mean? Two times, twice, also two times, triple. Product is a very big one that gets used. Of is huge when it comes to multiplication, okay? Like 10% of 100, 50% of 250, okay? Things like that. Division's one of the ones that's a little bit confusing, or it's hard to get used to the words that represent division, but popular ones are quotient of, ratio. We've seen that word ratio last year. Um, half, quarter, percent, yeah, things like that. Equals. Solution is another word for an answer. Result's probably an easy one. Okay. Now, produces is not the same as product. The product of two things would mean to multiply. If it produces something altogether, it produces a result. Okay. So if it's a result, we're talking about equals. Now, parentheses and turnaround phrases, these are the ones that a lot of students need some time to get used to. I've found throughout the years that it's easiest to recognize the parentheses words whenever we assign a name. Okay. First things first, we have 5 lines here, 5 phrases. There are 2 words that are exactly the same in each phrase. I'll give you a couple of seconds, pause the video, whatever, do what you got to do. There are 2 words that are exactly the same in each and every single line. Usually I'll have somebody say times. Well, I see times here and here, but I don't see times here, here, or in the last line. There are 2 words that are exactly the same. And if you guessed the and of, the, of, you're correct. So whenever you see those 2 words, that indicates the beginning and the end of the parentheses. That's why I like to name my parentheses the and of. Let me just write it normally. Okay, now if we're talking about the quantity of this or the sum of, the sum of, the sum of, twice the sum of, so 2 times. Remember, parentheses are already going to multiply for us, so we don't need to put a dot there. Times the difference of. Difference, what is difference? Minus. That means we're going to be subtracting something inside of the parentheses, plus the difference of, once again. Okay, so the and of beginning, ending, parentheses, okay? Most confusing part about today's lesson is going to be your turnaround phrases. What does it mean to turn around? Flip it, right? Well, your turnaround phrases, the easiest way to recognize a turnaround phrase is by a few words. The word than and from are the most used phrases that we see on the STAR test, but added to is also one of those. Okay. Than, from, and to. So if we say, for example, 3 more than 6. Well, we know that more means plus. Than is my turnaround phrase. So the way we would write it would be what? 3 plus 6. But because of that word than, that would cause me to flip my terms around and make it, oh, I'm not flipping it around, huh? And turn it into 6 plus 3. Now, 3 plus 6, 6 plus 3, they're going to give you the same result. That one doesn't really affect it a lot. Where it does come into play, where it is extremely important, is when we're subtracting less and subtracted from. So let's say 5 subtracted from 9. Subtracted means minus. From is my turnaround phrase. So normally the way I read it, I would subtract 5 minus 9, correct? But because of that turnaround phrase, because of the word from or the word than, that would cause me to flip my terms and it would turn into 9 minus 5. Now, this one would, oops, go back. This one would result in -4. This one results in +4. Very, very important for you to know the difference or for you to know when to flip a term or when you're very important for you to recognize that turnaround phrase, okay? So I'm going to leave this here out to the side. Let me see if it lets me. Where's that thing? Nope. There's supposed to be something that pops up. Let me move that down for now. Yes. I want to. There you go. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to zoom out on this one, leave my turnaround phrase parentheses because the other words are fairly easy. So translating words to math, the actual bulk of the lesson, okay? Anytime you see something that can be turned into a mathematical symbol or a word, or I mean, a variable, letter, a number, anything like that, you want to write the symbol right above it before you put it all together. Okay. So for number 1, the difference of a number and 8. Well, most students will recognize that word difference. So I'm going to underline that one. Let me see. No, that's probably not going to stand out. I'm going to go with purple. Difference. Difference means minus. Anytime you see the word a number, that would represent your variable. Okay. And that is something I forgot to write down. Let's write that down over here. When you see the word, oops, let's write this on our other page. Or the phrase a number, and we don't know what that number is, that's because they want you to put a variable in its place. You can put X, Y, Z, any letter, honestly, but X is the one we typically use, okay? So there's that. We have that word, or yeah, the word that turns into a number, the number 8. And a lot of the time students it takes some practice for you to recognize this, but the enough. So the difference of a number and 8. You see the expression outside or not put together, but we're going to write it as X minus 8. Okay. I'm going to highlight it and read it to you. The difference of, oops, why did I do that? Of a number and 8. Okay. Try it again. The difference of, why is it doing this? Sorry, guys. Of a number and 8. Okay, let's try the next one. 3 more than a number. 3 more means plus, a number is x. Now, anybody rushing through this would automatically write 3 plus x. What are we not noticing? Our turnaround phrase. Than is a turnaround phrase. What does than tell us to do? We have to, you know what, I'm just going to write it like this. We have to flip our terms. So I want to write it as 3 plus x, but when I flip it, my result is actually x plus 3. And yes, in order for you to get credit, it has to be written as x plus 3, not 3 plus x, okay? Because recognizing that turnaround phrase is part of this lesson. Quotient. Quotient is one of those toughies, right? Division, a number, 15. What else do we recognize? There it is, the and of. Now, we no longer use this symbol to represent division. What do we use to show division? For those of you that don't see it, fractions. Fractions represent division. Notice how it's pretty much the same symbol except one uses dots and the other one's using numbers. Yeah. Anytime you forget that fractions represent division, just try that, okay? So the quotient of a number and 15. Okay. Next. Whew. Product. Product means to multiply. So I'm going to use a dot. I'm not going to use an X because X, you can confuse it for a letter. 12 and a number. The product of. Okay. Well, based on this sentence, it wants me to write it as, but we don't typically see that in an expression written that way. We just see the number with X. Remember, they're never going to put that dot in front or that dot in between. It is just understood to be multiplied. That's just one of the mathematical rules. You should automatically know that it's multiplied whenever you have a coefficient, okay? Next, 15 less than a number. 15 less means minus X. If we're not paying close attention, we will miss the fact that there is a turnaround phrase, than. So instead of writing it as 15 minus X, turnaround phrase tells us that we have to write it as X minus 15. Okay. Now that we're a little bit more familiar with these turnaround phrases, I'm going to switch it over to full screen. Okay, a number subtracted from 9. A number subtract 9. But what are we missing? From. So instead of writing it as x minus 9, what do we write it as? 9 minus x. A number divided by 4. Even though I want to write it exactly the way I see that, remember, you write it as a fraction. Okay, 4 more than a number. Then, that's my turnaround phrase, which means we flip it around. 10 less than a number. The number 10 less, but we also have that turnaround phrase. I didn't draw my arrows with this one. Turnaround phrase. So instead of writing it as 10 minus x, x minus 10, which puts the negative on the 10, not the x. So that's why it's important for you to recognize those turnaround phrases. The last three are, the last three are the harder ones. So Let's break these down. 6 more than so anything that's written after the word then, all of this goes to the front. Everything here goes to the back. 5 times a number. How do we write that? 5 times x, or we write it as 5x. So right now we have 6 plus 5x because of our turnaround phrase. 5x plus 6. Almost done. 9 less than twice a number. 9 less than twice. Twice means what? 2 times a number. Right now, as it's written, we have 9 minus 2x. But because of our turnaround phrase, 2x minus 9. And last, 1/3. Anytime you have a number that's hyphenated, that automatically indicates a fraction. Okay, automatically indicates a fraction. So 1/3. 3/4, 4/5. Any two numbers that are hyphenated, if you see that little line, that's called a hyphen. You see that little line, that automatically means fraction. Anyway, sum a number 5. Keep looking. We're missing something because we only have one plus sign, but we have 3 numbers. We have a 1/3, we have an x, we have a 5. What are we missing? Those of you that see it, the and of. 1/3, the sum of. 1/3, the sum of x and 5. Okay? All right, so now it's your turn to practice. If I can find where is it? There it is.